meantime, I shall get ready. Okay. We got a few people. Yeah, we got about 6 people. It's fine. Usually what happens is I talk for like 10 minutes and then there's more people that slowly join, so that is totally fine. So yeah, welcome to the stream, guys. Hope everyone's had a good week. Apologies for being relatively quiet from the start of September. I had mentioned that it would be one of those months where we're gonna kind of decide which way we're gonna go. Are we gonna possibly go into a bear market, or are we actually gonna finally have the alt season that we've all been waiting for? So just a few things. We'll get started on Bitcoin because yeah, Bitcoin is the be all and end all for everything. So yeah, I mean, I originally had the short that I kind of cancelled around this area here, probably being a bit impatient, but I might reactivate this short trade that we have here. So I'll kind of talk through the logic behind this. Um, so I'll draw some fibs. We've already broken through that 382. Um, we we have tested the 50% fib level, which is common area of resistance. But you can kind of see what my idea is here. So basically, we've tested that 50% fib level. Now we may get a small drop and then possibly try to retest around this level here, the golden pocket 618 level. This is basically all resistance up until 120,795, okay? So for me, if Bitcoin kind of starts to climb and just breaks through resistance, I will see this as possible upside continuation, okay? Because at the moment, this could just be an A wave down, a B wave up, and B waves can overshoot, and then a C wave to the downside, okay? That is one thing I'm trying to be careful of at the moment because that idea will get invalidated if we obviously break above this 120,700 level and we sustain a break above it. You could also see that this 786, I'll refer to it as 786 from now on, is key resistance in multiple time zones, right? So there was this time period here in July where we rejected it. Just literally like a week before that, we kind of week above, week below. This was another area of resistance for it. Same place here, a month later in August, a few days after that. So you can see that this region really is a very important level of resistance for Bitcoin, okay? Now, as I always say, every week, the target for Bitcoin for the bull cycle target is around 135 to 150k. I've made that clear, said that multiple times. That is pretty much the bull target. Now, if we see Bitcoin, and I'm not saying we're going into a bear market if this happens, by the way. This is like the lesser directly bullish scenario. It's still bullish, but it's short-term bearish. So if we get rejected from this region that I've highlighted here, and you know we come down to Round about this level here. The 104 level, possibly even lower, like 98k around this region here. That's not bearish, right? It's not long-term bearish. It's short-term bearish, but not long-term bearish. What would be bearish is if we break that low, okay? So as long as, and I'll make this very, very, very clear, as long as Bitcoin holds above 98k, we should see further highs. That's very, very important, okay? A warning signal for me would be breaking below that 98k region, okay? Breaking below this low, not too bothered about it because, as I said, it could be an ABC pattern to the downside. But this would be quite deep if we got down to the 98k level, okay? Might not be too deep, but it would be quite deep. If we saw something like this, though, where we can't hold that and then we go down here, and this will start to look like a 5-wave move down, even though we haven't broke that 98k level, this is still technically not a good sign because you don't really want to see a 5-wave move down, okay? What you want to see is a 3-wave move down, because if we see a 5-wave move down, that may indicate weakness, and it could indicate that we will basically go down further. So this is kind of where we're at a pivotal point with Bitcoin. So I'm just hearing some noise in the background. Oh, Vicho, hey, hope you're good. Could you just mute yourself if that's all right? Sorry, I muted him. I don't know if I muted him for others, but it's good to see Vicho joining. Yeah, so as I said, if we get a 5-wave move down and we get to 98k, that in my opinion is bearish. If we even break below 98k, that would be super bearish, okay? So this for me is my invalidation point. I might even just make this red because it's so important. This is literally invalidation. And you can kind of see why, right? Because we're basically been in this channel. Because you know, crypto moves in waves, crypto moves in channels. Now we've been in this channel since like January last year. Okay, so you can see we've been in this channel, wick below, etc. Okay, so 100% if we, well, nothing's 100%, but 99% I would like to say if we do lose this, this is a bad sign. Okay, so what I am expecting is, as I said, we may get a pullback. I'd like to see a pullback to this region here, because this would be like an ABC. It would be a 3-wave move down, okay? That would be nice. And then we start to see a further 5-wave move to the upside. That might be where it takes us to the 150k region. And then, you know, maybe sideways consolidation for the first half of 2026. That will give alts a chance to really, really boom. And then we may start to come down, and then in the later part of 2026 we might get our bear market. I'm not trying to predict too much here, but what I do see is if we continue with the bullish momentum, technically for the later half of this year we should get really good gains, and hopefully in the first part of the year as well. After that, it's kind of anyone's game, and to be honest, once Bitcoin gets into this region, if it does, but I do believe it still will, it's very high risk at this point. Buying anything, if it's obviously pumped quite substantially, is going to be quite high risk at this point. So that's why we always track Bitcoin, because Bitcoin pretty much is the one that's tracking the market most of the time. You know, when Bitcoin's like cooling off, we might see a rally from Ethereum, and then obviously that's when alts can sometimes follow as well, right? So that's pretty much the summary on Bitcoin. We kind of already know where we're going with that, and my thoughts and feelings on that. And I already mentioned that I might take short on Bitcoin, depending on what happens. But it's obviously slightly more on the riskier side because obviously Bitcoin is in an uptrend. However, it is at resistance right now. So that is something important to bear in mind. Now, Ethereum also had a nice little pump as well, which is really nice to see. I'll just put some fibs on here so you can see that we are pretty much at the 50% fib level for this this move down. So taken from the highest to the lows, and we're at the 50% fib level. Okay, so you can see the previous high was literally basically at the golden pocket 618 level. So there is a chance we can push a little bit higher. Okay. Um, Again, for me, if we break past 4,800, again, invalidation of us going further down, and we will probably continue up to the $5,500, $6,000 region. Okay, I will remove this as well because this was kind of the target area that I wanted to see hit for Ethereum a couple of months ago, and we've already hit that. So let me just put a line here. So yeah, basically breaking past this region, this line, 4,800. That will mean that we will most likely, very likely, go towards $5,500, $6,000. Okay, this is kind of my ball target for Ethereum as well, $6,800, somewhere along this region here. Okay, again, if we get rejected from this region, there's a good chance that we will come and test that $4,000 region here. Okay, and you can see that there's a gap. There's a fair value gap here. Okay, and it would be technically in line with testing the trend line. Yeah, that 618 golden pocket region. That would be in line. So I think we have to see how the next couple of weeks go. I think for the weekend, there's a good chance that we may see a pullback. No guarantees, but this is why I'm currently in a Solana short, for instance. Solana's been like super pumping, but again, we're at resistance. Again, with Ethereum, we're pretty much at resistance, okay? And this is where we will start to see a lot of shorts come in. But on the whole, Ethereum is looking really good. It pretty much like 2.5x, well, not 2.5x, 2.25, something like that. It went up quite a bit, let's put it that way, from this region here that I highlighted from the 786 fib level that we had at the time. It was around $2,000, $2,100. Yeah, pretty much just really had a really nice rally from there. But yeah, I would say that we are possibly slightly losing momentum. If we look at the RSI, for instance, you can see that we are getting lower highs at the moment. So there is a chance that we might be getting some bearish divergence here, possibly running out of steam. May need a small pullback before we can continue higher, but we obviously have to just see how the market goes. You can even just take a trend line if you really wanted to from down here, and you can draw it like this, for instance, and you can see that we obviously broke down from that trend line. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're just going to like tank, but it does mean that we are obviously losing steam a little bit at resistance here, and we may see a small pullback. We might see possibly an ABC structure play out, a bit like what I'm seeing for Bitcoin, i.e. Bitcoin getting to 104, Ethereum getting to $4,000. We may still see that, but we just need to see how the market reacts to this resistance level here. Because if there is no stopping, and if we just continue to push past, and as I said, invalidation point for downside continuation is $4,800, then that would mean that we are going to just continue higher. That is pretty much what my thesis is on that. So yeah, Solana, and I want to talk about Solana because it just goes to show that even though we had this rising wedge, they don't all necessarily mean that they're going to fail and get to the downside. Okay, so you can see here I did have a long setup around about here. I was preparing for it around about the 180 region. But we basically are broken out of this this rising wedge to the upside, okay? So you know, it happens sometimes. I mean, obviously, as I said, more often than not, it does break down to the downside, but obviously Solana's been very, very bullish. We've been continuously making um higher lows, so that is obviously a very good sign. No, no bearish divergence whatsoever. I'm not seeing any of that at the moment. However, however, the reason that I am in a short, albeit risky, which is why I've obviously said to make sure that we only risk a very small amount of our port, is because we are reaching basically levels of resistance. You can see here there is some structural resistance here. If I take a fib and we take it from here and we also add the 100%. So yeah, essentially this region here between 239 and 267, this is a good area of resistance here. Now, obviously I've got my 4-hour stop loss set to around about $251. That is obviously set for a reason. I don't believe we will hold above that level for a sustained period of time. We may wick above it, which is why I'm slowly DCAing into this position. Okay. I don't see us pushing really past 250. Maybe if we push past 250, we're going to go higher and go to like 267 region, but I think that'll be quite extended. I think we're already a little bit extended at the moment. The 100% fib extension was quite an important fib, and you know we've pushed past that a little bit. So I think that within this region we will see possibly a pullback. If I stretch this out a little bit more, let me just make this a little bit more accurate. Yeah, so you can see that we've had like multiple touch points on this trend line. Sorry, my hands are freezing, so a little bit stiff. Yeah, you can see we've had multiple touch points. So, you know, we may go a little bit higher, but I am looking for a possible pullback to that 223, 224 region for a retest of this trend line, and then we possibly can continue upwards to 260, maybe even above that as well. I mean, if we look at it on the slightly higher level, just go on the daily. You can see all-time high was about $300, right? Not 300 quite. It was about, yeah, maybe like 297, something like that, I think it was. So yeah, we could possibly push to that level, but as I said, you can see we've got previous highs here around the 250, 260, 250, 260. So it's not completely illogical to be shorting at this point, even though it might be short-lived. Okay, as I said, we may get a retest of this trend line and then continue to push higher, and possibly even push all the way up and make a new all-time high. And again, $400 is my target for Solana. So this is more of a kind of scalp, I would say, very short-term trade. You know, basically just taking advantage of the fact that we may get a pullback soon, and we may get a pullback into that trend line. And then obviously I would look or be looking to go long from this trend line retest with a final TP target of around $400 for Solana. Okay, so that is pretty much my stand on Solana. Solana, as I said, has been really outperforming a lot of other coins. For instance, and to be honest, I don't know, I feel like I'm just gonna stop trading Fetch AI because don't get me wrong, I love it, but man, it gives me a headache because it's because it's so slow. However, Fetch AI is looking good. We broke out of that downtrend. Okay. Now, I think I said this a couple of weeks ago. I do see this as a triangle. Okay. Um, and I would like to think that once we get out of this triangle, um, it will be an explosive move. 100%. It's going to be an explosive move, and I hope it's an explosive move to the upside. Okay. So this is pretty much how I'm seeing it. Um, October, November time is kind of known for being quite bullish. We've seen some massive, massive gains in October. I know a couple of years ago, I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was October 2023, we saw some pretty big gains. That was when like Fetch.ai was like, I don't know, I can't remember, it was probably like 10% of what it was now. I mean, it's definitely pushed up, and I think you would see the same on a lot of other coins. So yeah, I think nothing too much to say on Fetch.ai at the moment. Um, I would like to see us break past that previous high around here, which probably is going to be around the 50% fib level if we just take a fib. Yeah, it's around the 50% fib level. So again, though, resistance. Okay, so this can go one of two ways. A, B, C, which again isn't necessarily bearish, short-term bearish, because we've been in this triangle, and we could say it's a WXY structure, and that would possibly result in that final leg down. Okay, so I don't really want to see that. I'd like to think the low would be in. Don't get me wrong, it'd be nice. I mean, we had limits set here, so if it suddenly starts tanking and we get our fills, then that would be a win. But I think it may be safe to say that if we do get a pullback, we may get a pullback into this region. I might need to, do I need to update it? No, I don't think I need to update it. I think it's still good. So yeah, we may still get a pullback into this region here in the next, few days, could be the next couple of weeks, or we do just genuinely push through resistance. And I would say that we would directly be going much higher, $1 plus, if we break above this previous high here, and this is a quite an important previous high at 77 cents. Okay, so if we break past that point, then I would say we will be directly going to the upside. Okay, however, yeah, local resistance at the moment. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a pullback. It would be nice to get a pullback, and maybe we can set some bids in this region. But that's what I'm seeing. However, there are stronger coins, right? So, for instance, AVAX, Avalanche. I have been looking at this silently for quite some time, and I think we do get a push up to at least $40, at least $40. Obviously, my target's quite low at the moment, but I do think we get a push to definitely around $40 would be really, really nice. And it is looking pretty good at the moment. We held this low that we formed in April when we had that pullback. Don't get me wrong, I don't particularly like how deep this pullback was. It was quite deep. I think it even went below the did it go below the 786? Yeah, it did go below the 786. So it was quite low. I think it even probably went to the A8 to the A86. It was, yeah, exactly. Even went below it slightly. So it was quite a deep pullback, but we have pushed above this weekly resistance here, which was at around $25, $26. Okay, so that is a good sign. And I would like to think there isn't going to be too much. There isn't going to be too much resistance until we start getting to the bottom of these candles here, right? But obviously, as you can see, we may be in a small pullback at the moment. where I've drawn this signal line is pretty much where we have possibly resistance now turned to support, but we need to, I personally think we need to retest this region. We need to retest here, maybe even a little bit lower, and hopefully in this region here, we can then have a nice 1-2 setup, and this for me would be a 1-2 setup. If we get a push down to round about this region, this would be a nice 1-2 setup, and then we can look to have that third wave. And as I said, I do think we go higher. I do think we go, kind of 30, 39, $44 region. So I am being quite conservative when I say that final TP is around $34.8. I may adjust that just based on obviously what kind of reaction we will see down here. Okay, so again, AX is looking really, really good. I think it's also relatively strong coin at the moment. And you can see obviously here we held, even though it was quite deep, we held that low. We held that previous low, and we've broken this area of resistance here. So I'll go through a couple of others that I'm looking at. Link, still in from $10, by the way, $10, $11, still in from that. Nothing's changed. But you can see if we look at it from the daily time frame, we are obviously still in an uptrend, and this is still our support zone. I do expect possibly a small pullback, but I would like to see us maybe retest this trend line we've been holding for the past couple of months, and then we may continue and push past this very, very large weekly trend line resistance region. I think if we break past this trend line, there is nothing, in my opinion, there is nothing stopping us going to $50. Maybe even above that, breaking all previous all-time highs. I do see Link doing that in the next few months if we do get past trend line resistance. Now, the slightly less bullish option, not bearish, but not directly bullish, would be if we had an ABC structure that played out like this, fell into our support zone. So our support zone is still at 17.5 cents, sorry, $17.5 to $20. And if we do see a reversal from here, then yes, this can obviously be a diagonal pattern and we can continue to the upside. And I would still expect to see $50 plus. If we break below this support, and again, I'll highlight this because it's important. This is kind of not invalidation, but it would be very deep. So I would not want to see Link break below $17.6. I know it's a long way away, and everyone's probably thinking we're miles away, we're never going to get there. Hopefully we don't get there. But as you can see, things aren't always going to go up and up and up. What goes up must come down, right? I mean, it's pretty much how it goes. We had a nice rally here, but we had a good pullback. A nice rally here, good pullback. Now, we may, as I said, we may be in this leg to the upside and break past that weekly resistance trend line. However, we need to see certain levels break, and I can be a little bit more accurate about when this ABC structure to the downside starts to become less likely. So I'll probably just take this off, to be fair. I don't need it anymore. Probably want to draw this a little bit more accurately. And we want to be targeting So again, this is our resistance levels here. 50% fib level, you can see we've pretty much reached that, which is probably why we're starting to see a little bit of a slowdown. Okay, normally we get a Friday pump, and then the weekend is either consolidation or we get like a wave 4 or wave 2 pullback. I know it's kind of me being a bit predictive, but I mean it really is typically what we see. Okay, so this is the region where I would say we are watching for a pullback. From this region here, I would, as I said, like to see us hold this low. If we don't hold that low, then yeah, as I was saying, this is going to be our next level of support. So for further upside continuation, unless obviously we break down from that, we will be in this support zone. But if not, if we do hold a higher low, which is going to be the important test, right? We've not actually had a proper higher low test. We've not really had a wave 4 or a wave 2, however you want to look at it. We've not really had that pullback to see if we really will hold like a multi-day higher low. Okay, so we want to really see it hold that, and then if we do see it hold, then obviously we can obviously push higher. So I mean, this support region will obviously change depending on how much higher we push. And again, $21.9 is invalidation point for further upside, at least in a direct route. So just bear in mind that I really do truly mean a direct route, i.e. from here we push higher. Even if we break below here, this is still bullish unless we break below $17.6. Okay, so directly bullish up until $21.9. So directly bullish up until this point. Bullish in general up until 17.6. Bearish, hugely bearish, break below this region. Okay, so we've got levels. We've got levels that we can watch. I've not been as active as I wanted this week because it's been complete chaos at work. But I think if we do start to see a pullback, then I will start getting ready to take some leverage trades. And obviously we can see where we go from there. Just to kind of highlight where I'm going with this. This is kind of maybe what you would want to look for. I would at least be targeting $31 to be honest. Just for this kind of relatively short-term setup. And we would obviously have some DCAs down here. And then our stop loss would be more than likely a daily stop loss below that previous low. Because we can get wicks and it wouldn't be completely invalidated. It would just be very deep. And sometimes crypto surprises us like that, right? I mean, there are obviously levels we want to see hold, but we do see them break very briefly when we have capitulation events or market makers trying to just throw everyone out of the market, right? We do see that. And that's why it's important that I always say if we see a sustained break below these levels, then that's kind of like a red flag, right? We're not just seeing like a quick wick and then, it's all eaten up by all of the long limit orders. We see continuously that we're below that level. And that's what would concern me. And that is when I would start to think that in this scenario, for instance, with the $21.9 region, we start to see lower prices towards that larger support area down here. So I think that's probably my summary on Link. Sui is another one that I've been watching and playing with. Let me just load that up. So yeah, again, this is technically a rising. I still would call this a rising wedge in a way. Um, but you know, bear in mind that they do sometimes break out to the upside, like Solana, for instance. Um, but we are obviously at resistance for SUI. Um, I did obviously take like a very small long that we had from like $3.58. Took some profit up here, and obviously we've hit before entry. So I'm not re-entering just yet, just because there's a lot of coins that are at resistance right now, and Bitcoin, for instance, is at resistance, Ethereum is at resistance. So I think that we need to obviously be careful that we don't long resistance until we actually have confirmation that we've broken it, okay? In Sui's case, you know, people can totally ape in now. I personally wouldn't, right? I mean, I kind of want to just see that we break past these previous highs first, and breaking past those previous highs, like doing so would probably allow us to break out of this trend line. Okay, so I think we need to just be careful of that at the moment. This is kind of starting to be the area that we want to watch, possibly a pullback. But there is no confirmation of that yet. What I would say would be possibly first confirmation of that would be breaking below, I'd say the 358, 355. These lows here, if we start getting some swing failure patterns and we start breaking below these lows, then there is a good chance that we may retest this region here, which is where we obviously have some of our limit orders, right? So if we do get that, then I would really, really love to see Sui hold this region. And then again, it's really very similar to a lot of other altcoins, right? If we start losing certain levels, you know, we've got invalidation points for bullish continuation. So 311, that previous swing low, 311 is going to be your invalidation point. And then obviously if we break below that 311 region, then that is where we would start to think, okay, Sui is probably on its way towards $2.6 to like just under $3, this region here. But this region is only going to become relevant if we break those levels, right? I mean, that's why I would say don't assume anything yet. Don't assume anything yet. But if these levels break, okay? So that's what we're looking for at the moment, okay? What else? Doge was another one that I was keeping an eye on. I think Doge has actually been doing really, really, really well. I mean, it just literally doesn't give a shit about anything. Um, when I was waiting for a pullback, I was like, come on, give us a little pullback, and then we can get into this region, and then boom, we can get to the TP, right? But it didn't give us that. It didn't even give us a pullback. It was like, no, I'm just gonna go TP. Like, forget about it. So I think sometimes it's good to actually go in current market price with a small position. Sometimes it's better to just hold off. In this instance, it might have been better to just go in with a small position. Lesson learned. But yeah, I wouldn't rule out anything at the moment. I actually, bizarrely enough, I still see this as like a massive extension of the wave 3. So I would have liked to have seen some kind of pullback, even if it was just like a small pullback, and then like a further push to the upside, and then that I would say we would have a 5-wave move up, and then we can maybe take some longs from this region here. This would be a 1-2 setup, and then we can look to ride this out to, you know, 43, 48, 50 cents plus. Okay. But you know, they're just kind of running away a little bit. Again, though, it is approaching resistance. We are pretty much already in resistance. You've got these previous highs. I mean, we obviously broke past this previous high, But we've got obviously our previous high, and you can see here there is obviously some volume to watch out for around here. So we are at that level, very near to that level, and that's why I say that we may start to get a pullback, and it would be a very welcome pullback. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's too much else to say. Maybe let's see if let's see. Yeah, I mean, I would say we've broken past at least that trend line. Let's take that off to not make it too confusing. Let's clean this up a bit as well. You can tell that I've literally not cleaned this up very well. So yeah, what would be really nice looking at it on the slightly higher time frame is if we did get rejection from this region and come down here in the next week or so for a retest, because that'll be like a perfect springboard basically for higher prices. So let's see basically. Definitely watching for this. I might even set some alerts just in case we do start to get that that pullback, and then I can obviously let everyone know. I do have some limits set down here, so I will obviously make those clear again that if we do get below this area here, we may start to kind of ladder in to a nice doge long around about here, and I mean I would definitely be targeting much higher, so I will also be changing that, but I will be targeting much higher. Obviously the first TP would be at around 30 cents. Just naturally there is a lot of resistance that would be there. But yeah, I think once we get past that point, once we get past 30 cents, there's really not much until your 43-cent region. And one more that I like to typically look at. By the way, you know, I'm always open for looking at different coins. These are just the ones that I have the time to look at and also know the best, and are usually just relatively reliable in the sense that they're not hugely volatile. Not like some meme coins, for instance, which I don't mind trading, by the way. There's like Pengu and stuff like that that I wanted to have a look at. I might come to that in a bit. Anyway, H bar. So H bar has broken out of this trend line. However, it hasn't broken any previous swing highs. Okay. So there's this 26 cent region here. It hasn't broken above that yet. So, you know, again, two ways that can go about this. You can see we had a little deviation below this range that we were playing. But obviously we found some support down here, which you can see is obviously acting as some areas of support. And then we may get a push down and then possibly go up. But really, I would have liked to have seen H bar push a little bit higher above this swing high here. At the very least, push higher above it, and then get a retest and take this trade a little bit higher up. But unfortunately, H bar hasn't got there yet. So we just need to be a little bit cautious if we are going to be trading H bar in this respect, because you know, you can still see this as a WXY, where we would end up going below this region here, where we had obviously our much lower limits set. So yeah, obviously main things to watch at this point. Do we hold the trend line if we get a retest? And do we hold the 21 cent level? Okay, because again, and I'll make this clear. This is going to be also invalidation now for direct upside continuation. So I wouldn't want to see us break below that 21% region. And one more that I will talk about. It's funny how Pengu is now on Binance. It's crazy. Right, let's have a look. So yeah, I mean similar kind of theme. You know, we can probably draw our support line here. Support doesn't always tend to be a line, by the way. It could just be a small region. So I would say that, do you know what? I'm gonna probably give it a little bit more room to breathe. Yeah, this would be my my area of support for it. So yeah, you can see that again. Pengu, quite a nice setup actually, broken out of this trend line. This may be a 5-wave move up. So we can see a 1-2. It's quite a nice 1-2 setup. 3, 4, 5. Proportions look pretty good actually. I ain't gonna lie, they look pretty good. But yeah, could be a 5-wave move. It has the right proportions. Wave 4 was a little bit shallow, but I suppose we can give it the benefit of that. Now we could still extend, or we get a 3-wave pullback, possibly come near the trend line to retest, and then away we go. This is why I have also an alert set here at 32, well, 0.032 cents, just in case obviously we do get down this level. I don't normally trade meme coins too much, like obviously Doge, I don't mind trading. With, I don't mind trading. Penguin is relatively new, but it's also quite clean. It's got a clean chart. So, and you can see that this could possibly be a 5-wave move on the larger time frame. But it needs to hold, this 0.027 region. And yeah, I would definitely be targeting higher, maybe even above this wick, but I'd say 0.07 might be a good initial region. But you know, the RR on this is crazy, right? 22.75. That's really good RR. If we get pull back down here, into this area, I would be looking to definitely have an entry around here. You know, the 0.032, slowly DCA in, and then obviously our stop loss. Invalidation point is going to be below 0.027, but I may set a 4-hour stop loss just below the 786 fib because of that point. Have I lost internet connection? That's strange. Can everyone still hear me? That's really annoying. Let me see if I can. Uh, yeah, really sorry about that, guys. Don't exactly know what happened. I think the internet died. Um, so yeah, really sorry about that. Thanks for hanging on. I've had some internet issues where we're getting some dropouts occasionally, so that was like super annoying. On the plus side, at least it didn't cut out like literally within the first 5 minutes of the stream. That would have really sucked. Um, anyway, basically, as I was saying, 4 hours stop loss, possibly below the 0.029 region. Um, Official invalidation is obviously 0.027, but I wouldn't want to see a 4 hour close below that 0.029. That would possibly be in line with kind of near towards retesting the trend line that we've broken out of. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. It's conveniently cut me off at that time. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If anyone obviously has any coins they'd like me to have a look at, um, uh, I think legit has left, but his comment, Slay Girl, that's quite funny. Thanks for that. On the feature, gotta love him, right? On my way to my girlfriend's house, listening to Slickchick as a podcast. Yeah, you know what? Really sorry. Kind of wish my internet wasn't so crap at the moment. But yeah. Um, and yeah, like I think that's pretty much it to be honest. There's not too much more to say. I think we've talked about Bitcoin, we've talked about Ethereum. Actually, there was one thing I forgot, which I don't even know. How did we get onto DXY? How did we get onto the DEXY? I mean, don't get me wrong, I do look at it, but I don't really know how we got there. I will really quickly talk about USDT dominance because I think it is very, very important right now. It has on the smaller time frame got to the 1.382 fib extension, which I would like to see as a target for a third wave down. So USDT dominance is at support. However, I would say it looks bearish. Um, at least short term, I think it looks bearish, and I do think if we get a pullback on USDT dominance, which will obviously drag alts and Bitcoin and Ethereum down, I do think that we won't break back above that 4.62% region anytime soon. And I would like to see us go all the way down to this 3.77% region down here. Um, I do see that happening. I can tell my internet is really struggling, so I I may end the stream. I may end the stream. We are continuously getting cutouts, which is not good. Um, Typical. Yeah, yeah, sorry guys. I'd like to think people can hear me. Um, Sharky. Yeah, I know, man. I know. That's. You know what? I feel like that penguin that's just basically fallen into the ice. Um, I think we'll probably call it there because my router is obviously telling me to go and eat some food, and it's a Friday, and it's probably just like just give up. So thanks for joining and putting up with the stupid internet issues. At least we got through a good chunk of that though, and I really hope it was helpful for everyone. I will try to keep people as up to date as possible, as I do really want to obviously have people make money. Um, and I will obviously keep an eye on charts as much as possible. Have a great weekend. Don't overtrade. Management as usual. Let's just see how it goes. I think we're only in like one trade at the moment, which is the Solana short. I might activate the Bitcoin short, and we'll just keep an eye out on how the market reacts for the weekend. So have a good one, and thanks for listening.